Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Queersome podcast. I'm Kayla.
I'm Emilee, and today we're interviewing Emma Curtis.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi.
I'm Emma.
It's here. So we're going to kind of play just a couple questions. You kind of go how you feel, go as deep as you want to, whatever you feel.
Sounds good.
So you've already introduced yourself, and you are running for District 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, like, you can kind of go as crazy as you want to with this, but what is your platform? What are you running for? What are you super passionate about?
Yeah, so the three core issues that I'm running on are number one, fixing Nicholasville Road now, not later. Not just kicking it down the road and hoping that the state will come in and, save us someday in the future at an unspecified time, which has sort of been the approach that council's taken thus far. Next year, there are going to be recommendations made as part of the Imagine Nicholasville Road plan that come before council about what we can do to update our infrastructure there. And I want to make sure that I'm there to advocate for increased pedestrian safety, for improved traffic flow, and to figure out how we can make public transit more accessible along the corridor. The second thing in my platform is housing. I'm 28 years old. I'm a renter. Let's just be honest, the housing market is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's a shit show.
It is an absolute shit show. And council, we keep prioritizing the interests of these out-of-state developers who come in, they buy up all of the available housing units, and they either flip them, they jack the rent up, or they use them as Airbnbs. All of those things make the people who live and work in Lexington or who are trying to live and work in Lexington, it becomes impossible.
Makes it so much harder.
And so, I want to shift that priority back and make sure that we're building an on-ramp for folks to have access to home ownership, which I've always kind of considered to be like the baseline American dream sort of thing.
Of course.
Everybody deserves housing. That's a basic human right.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is government transparency. Because right now, let's be honest, nobody knows what the hell council does.
Yeah.
A lot of folks don't even know we have a council in Lexington. And so I really think that that's been, an area of our civic health that needs desperate attention.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And to do that, council members need to not just be, warm bodies in a room. They need to be out in their communities and communicating and talking and actually interacting with the people that they represent so that the people they represent know what the heck is going on.
I think especially for younger people, because we tend to politics are a lot of our generation and younger than us, politics is something older people and all of that. We don't see a lot of representation for a younger person, queer, all of that. And kind of seeing that forefront and you doing that, it's an inspiration, and it kind of it allows us just to see we do what we vote. Local matters a lot more than what we actually think it does, and I hope more people get out and realize that, especially this year, locally and election.
No, I personally think that your city council members and your school board members have more of an impact on your day-to-day life than the president of the United States does.
Absolutely.
And so you really want to be having those conversations, and the flip side of it is they should be, at least in theory, the most accessible of your elected officials.
Absolutely.
One would think. When I'm out and I'm knocking doors and I'm canvassing, I give my cell phone number to people because, I don't know, I'm a dork about this. I want to talk about this. If I didn't want to get into the weeds of municipal policy, I wouldn't run for office to begin with.
You're wanting change, and you're standing on that.
Your agenda is change. Yeah. It's not, something else. It's not, it could be, obviously passion and be, a personal passion, but, you're really wanting to, be with the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think...
It's refreshing.
I appreciate that.
Really
you know, I do think that we're ready for something new in Lexington.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, you know, I'll be the youngest person on council in all likelihood. And I would be the first Gen Z person on Lexington's council.
Yeah.
And,
That's
you know,
so cool.
we think about politics in our generation largely in relation to Donald Trump, right? Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, Trumpster fire? Is that a thing? Is that a joke? Can we go with that?
We'll go with that.
I like it.
But no, I mean, I'm almost 30 years old, and I am...
Same.
Yeah, you know, I've never gotten to vote. We've never gotten to vote in an election where Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot.
Absolutely.
Right?
Never.
That's exhausting.
It is.
I'm so sick of this shit.
It's so exhausting.
And... you know, local government, when we think about these national issues, is really where the rubber meets the road. Because the federal government might pass something, the state legislature might pass something, but the local government is going to have to implement it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so, you know, like when the Biden administration and Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act, it was the Lexington Fayette Urban County government's job to take the funds from that and actually disperse them appropriately and make sure that they were having an impact in our community. So when we are having discussions about those federal things, we have to consider how that's going to trickle down to us here in Lexington.
Yeah.
And who's benefiting from that. And right now it's not been young folks, it's not been working class folks, it's not been anybody who is unable to take off work on a whim to go to a council work session in the middle of the workday on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, and so how do we bring people in and invite them to the table?
Yeah.
You know, government can't solve every problem, but like we should be here as elected officials to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
love that.
love that so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I know a little bit about your background. Kayla does too. Obviously, you know, I'm going to break the fourth wall. Robert knows too. But would you like to kind of talk about like how you got to, like for people that don't know, just like how you got to like, I'm going to be councilwoman and I'm going to knock on every door and I am going to give someone my phone number because I care about them. Like where, like, take us back to like the beginning.
Yeah. So, I was born in Lexington, and I grew up on my family's tobacco farm. I had a lot of family members who worked in government. They weren't politicians, but they like worked with the government, whether that was for the Legislative Research Commission in Frankfort, or my mom worked for Wallace Wilkinson, who was, you know, governor of Kentucky. And, you know, I sort of was exposed to that world. And I hated it. I hated everything about it. I thought, oh my God.
I'll never do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Eat your words sometimes. We said
I
we'd
know.
never own a salon, and here we
Look
are.
at you now. And did you say you would never have a podcast?
No, that was the one thing we were like, that would be cool to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, cool. Okay,
we just
good.
kind of jumped the salon and then back to the podcast.
No, that's okay. You know, a little bit of, you know, synergy there. It works.
It does.
I get it. And so, like, I really got into politics in 2016. So I was going to college at Center in Danville, and we had a real issue on campus with sexual harassment and sexual assault for, you know, predominantly our female students, but also just, you know, our gay male students. And oh my God, I don't have time to go into, you know, what it was like existing as, you know, a closeted trans person on that campus. But, you know, one of the things that really made that worse was Trump coming onto the scene.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I had this feeling of powerlessness of like, I can't stop the guy from The Apprentice from, you know, just running for president or whatever. But, you know, I can do something on campus. And so I started, you know, working with other students and organizing and around those issues. You know, we brought then Attorney General Andy Beshear to campus to talk about the rape kit backlog and what Title IX meant and entitled students to for recourse within the system.
Yeah.
At one point, we occupied the president's office building like overnight, multiple days until Center agreed to, make some systemic changes and release information about both the sexual assault and harassment issues, and also racial justice and some of the, I don't know, I'll just say it, racist bullshit that they were pulling.
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
so, and that was successful. And, from there, I was also looking at the national scene, and I got involved with the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Yeah.
And that was when I started knocking doors for the first time. And I was like, maybe there is a spot in electoral politics.
Yeah.
And then that election got even nastier. And I was like, psych, never mind. I was right about all of you. And so I kind of stayed away from it. And I focused more on like issue-based advocacy, right? Because it's like in the Trump era, what could I do that was tangible good for people? And especially, coming out as trans and transitioning and doing all of that also, while working.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that happened as well, during COVID. You sort of get forced into this world where your very existence is politicized. And so what can you do with that to help other people?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that, extended into some direct action work, some advocacy work. And then that led to me going to Frankfurt, lobbying extensively on what became Senate Bill 150, which is still probably the worst piece of legislation that I've ever seen, that ever seen passed in our state legislature. And, it was this omnibus anti-trans bill. And, I went down there because I was like, I've been around these people. They don't scare me.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you have to be willing to have difficult conversations with people you don't agree with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that can lead to some tangible good.
For sure.
And, I was in a fortunate position to have a really good relationship with my state rep. His name was Lamine. And he really sort of provided me with a space in Frankfurt where, like, I didn't have to worry about the fact that I was walking in my Doc Martens with my tattoos and my blue hair.
Yeah, you felt supported and loved and
safe.
Accepted and safe.
Yeah.
And that's really, like, at the end of the day, what
That's
we're all
asking
asking
for.
I mean, if you women, like trans people, like I mean, any gay people, any of that, like that's all we're asking is
just
safety and acceptance, like
it's and if you can't accept it, then mind your own damn business.
Exactly.
And so I got into that. And then that led, unfortunately, Lamine passed away suddenly. And that left a vacancy for the remainder of his term. So I put my name forward after his mom and his campaign staff asked if I would to succeed him and serve out the remainder of his term. That was an inter-party nominating contest. There's a lot of bureaucracy to that. And so I didn't get that nomination, but it definitely opened me up to the possibility of, okay, running for office is like a thing that I can do.
Absolutely.
And I have it in me to do. I decided to run for council. It was something I had been going back and forth on. But somebody that I really cared about passed away, and I know that y'all really cared about them. They were a client here. And that was Mia when they got killed crossing Nicholasville Road. And that was a terrible day. I mean, so to get on the ballot in Fayette County, you have to go around and collect signatures from people to say, like, hey, we think this person should be on the ballot. I was doing that. I hadn't really made up my mind, but I was like, if I decide to do this, I want to be prepared. And when I was knocking doors, I knocked on a friend of mine who lives in the district's door, and we were in the same running club, and Mia was in that running club as well. And, they told me that, Mia had just passed away after getting hit on Nicholasville Road. And I don't know if that's just how I process grief or anything, but it's okay. Try to turn this into a tangible good, into some action. And I know that that's you know, I've tried to do what I think, you know, Mia would want their passing to mean something and to have a lasting impact on Lexington. And so I hope that, you know, we can actually start taking pedestrian safety and fixing Nicholasville Road seriously and treating it.
Especially here in Lexington.
The
We've had
injuries and deaths is like unacceptable how many there have been.
It
is so sad.
It is. And like, you know, there's a galling statistic which shows that between 2022 and 2023, according to the Kentucky State Police, there was a 566% year-over-year increase in pedestrian fatalities from car accidents in Lexington. And I don't think that's acceptable.
No.
You know, we can't force every single person to be a careful and considerate driver necessarily, but we can take systemic measures, because right now our pedestrian infrastructure, including along Nicholasville Road, a lot of it's not up to code.
Yeah.
A lot of it's not safe.
Yeah.
We don't have a system of roads here in Lexington that's prioritized, you know, multimodal intersections where they're accessible for drivers, for people using public transit, for cyclists, for pedestrians, for people riding motorcycles. Like we need to share the roads, and so that is a tangible policy change. And so, you know, after that, you know, I sat with it and was like, this is something that I can do and I have to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's
You felt
ultimately
called to do it. Like,
yeah. And it's, you know, I was looking at the council member that I had and realizing, you know, additionally that like she was not doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I think that my neighbors deserve better.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, guess I'm running.
Guess we're here.
Guess I'm doing
it. Yeah.
And so here we are.
Here we are.
We made it through the primary. We got the general coming up on November 5th, and early voting is October 31st through November 2nd at any of the Fayette County Public Library branches. I highly encourage y'all to vote early. I do it most every year.
Yes. What is, you know, or where is District 4? And how does District 4 like affect Lexington as a whole for what you're running?
Yeah, so District 4 is kind of an odd little chunk of land. So it sits outside of New Circle Road, between Nicholasville Road and Tate's Creek Road, all the way out to the Jessamine County line, with a little smidge and cutout right around Veterans Park.
Okay.
Now, this is a recent change. We did redistricting a couple of years ago, and right now we've got a very seemingly contradictory socioeconomic mix. Generally, you try, when you're districting, if you're doing it with the best of intentions, to group people based on shared experiences so that they can have representatives who are, you know, indicative of their lived experiences. But in this situation, the 4th District lines were drawn by Brenda Menarez, who is the current council member for the 4th District, and I am running against. So she actually drew her own district.
Oh.
And
that sounds bad.
Yeah, like within a couple of weeks of council approving the new district lines, she filed to run for office, which then set off its own series of controversies because she was the first person to ever do that.
Yeah.
You know, we had operated under a good faith system that's not a thing that you do.
Yeah, for sure.
But as a result, council passed new anti-corruption laws relating to the redistricting process. And if those applied retroactively, she wouldn't even be eligible to be on the ballot this year. Wow. Because you are not allowed to serve or to seek a council seat for 5 years after you've been on the redistricting committee. So, you know, that being said, the 4th District, as it relates to Lexington as a whole, does kind of have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know, so we have a very diverse socioeconomic mix where, you know, north of Man of War, you have a lot of apartment complexes, young folks in rentals, you know, multifamily homes and duplexes, as well as like working class single family homes. And then south of Man of War, you know, you start to get into a bit more of like subdivisions and the type of places that have very active homeowners associations. And, it's not that either of those is better than the other.
It's just very different.
They are very different.
And so they're maybe different needs.
Yeah.
Ages even.
Yeah.
There's just a lot. Cultures, all of that is just very different in both of those compared.
Yeah. And this area of Lexington's really special to me personally. So when I came out and started transitioning, I didn't have a great relationship with my mom and my stepdad. And I spent a fair amount of time crashing with my friends Erin and Jessica as I was starting to transition. And they lived in the 4th District.
Yeah.
And so pretty much my entire adult life, because this was right after I graduated college, I've been here.
Yeah.
And literally I took my coming out photo right at, at the edge of the 4th District because Brenda Menarez districted them out.
Yeah.
But this place is deeply, deeply important to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel it in my bones.
Yeah.
And we deserve better from our leaders than what we're getting right now.
Yeah.
And so, as far as how it impacts Lexington as a whole, again, we've got a good chunk of Nicholasville Road.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's the chunk that goes along, the Summit, Fayette Mall, all of that. Everybody hates this road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
the farther it goes, the worse it gets.
it is. It's a collective nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being a kid in school and my mom would be late picking me up because she was stuck in Nicholasville Road traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we hear it day in and day
All
out.
the
Someone
time.
I'm running 5 minutes behind.
I was running
stuck
5
in
minutes
traffic.
behind getting to this podcast because I was stuck in Nicholasville Road traffic.
Oh, yeah. Every day.
time.
Without fail.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that can unite us across party lines,
Is our hatred for Nicholasville Road.
Amen.
I would agree with that.
And so, again, it's something that I think can really bring people together at a moment where we're experiencing just historic division and so much hatefulness and the refusal to acknowledge each other's humanity because of, again, political beliefs, partisan identity, and whatnot. There's been a whole thing, council races are nonpartisan, but every time I knock on somebody's door, the first question they ask is, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Yep.
And then I say, well, council races are nonpartisan. And then they say, but are you a Republican or a Democrat? And then...
And that two-party system is... Everybody has had it so culturally ingrained that, and obviously, it does matter when it comes to voting, but at the same time, it's I'm just a human, okay? I'm at the end of the day, I'm a human, and this is what I'm standing for, and to help other people, and to better this community, versus any of that,
listen, if you want to help fix Nicholasville Road, I don't care whether you've got an R or a D next to your name.
Exactly. Respect me, I respect you, and let's get this road fixed.
Exactly. And so... I think that partisanship is not very nuanced, but people are extremely nuanced, and you can't understand somebody's entire system of belief based on solely their partisan affiliation.
Absolutely.
Now, that being said, I've also not made it a secret. I'm vice president of Kentucky Young Democrats. I was endorsed by the Democratic municipal officials. Which I think also says a lot, considering I'm running against a sitting Democratic municipal official.
It does.
And so, we've got to move past this team sports element, see each other within our partisan affiliations, but acknowledge that we're more than that.
It's not especially locally, it's not me against you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to be here for you.
Exactly. This helps. It's the betterment for everyone.
No, this campaign has been the longest job interview I've ever had.
Yeah.
And that's genuinely the thing is I want the people of the 4th District to be my boss.
Yeah.
That's
Tell me what you want me. And
I'm here
for
you.
Exactly. And that's what's so...
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a lot of times I feel like it's what can I gain from this, and most politicians' thoughts, like what betters me, what betters my family, what betters my community, like versus like what can I do to help you all, like, and that's what you're saying, like,
like
boss me around, tell me what,
exactly. Like I'm not the person. I don't want to be the person that you come to when you've got gripes over a major international conflict. I want to be the person you call when your sidewalk is all jacked up and you keep tripping over it.
Absolutely.
And I can help you navigate the bureaucaucy to get that fixed. Because that's going to improve your day-to-day life.
And I don't think a lot of people understand or know even, like, I've lived in Lexington. I don't live in Lexington anymore, but when living in Lexington, I'm like, who do I even call for this situation? You know what I mean? Like, and like we need more of like, hey, I can do this or I can do that. Like a lot of, I think our generation especially, like they just don't know who's for them. Because we typically see everything against us, not what's for us, you know?
And I see
100%.
And that's the thing is it's like I think candidates should run for something, not against someone.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely what I believe. And I think that we have a real opportunity to do some good here.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Same.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Does that mean that I have the Queersome podcast endorsement?
Oh yeah.
Oh, every day.
Okay. I was
Honey, yeah.
you know, just being, you know, transparent.
We got you.
Oh
Listen,
my
we
gosh.
tell everybody.
Yeah, we do. Bring
you,
some stuff up here. We'll put it out.
Well, who's your one client? Sarah? Is that her name?
Oh yeah, Sarah Ritter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
We love the Ritters.
We do. Yeah.
Morgan loves her mom too. So.
God bless.
They're great.
But that's also like I'm gonna take this, and I think it speaks to Lexington, which is that like we are both simultaneously a major city and a small town.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I say that day in and day out. Like, I'm not from Lexington,
big, small town.
and I remember moving here. Everyone's like, "Oh, she's moving to the big city." Da 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 da. And I'm like, it has the vibes, but at the same time, it is so small, and everybody is so connected. Like we've been here for 10 years plus now. I can't go anywhere without running into someone that I know, or a client of Wormies, or like you know, like it is such a small, like tight realm, even though it has a larger city, if you will, vibe. Like
I remember being so excited to be like, oh, nobody knows who I am here.
Yeah.
And now, like, the older I get, I'm like, I kind of like that I can, like, walk in here and see someone I know.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, hey, what's up? You know? Like, it's, you know, it is home.
For somebody like me who is very much an extrovert, it's the best thing in the world. I love being able to walk around and run into somebody that I know from somewhere just every time I leave the house. And it's genuinely like a front I call it a front porch culture.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, where it's, even though we're in the second most populous city in Kentucky, you kind of, you're still, you know everyone.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, and you can just like, if you don't know somebody, you know somebody who does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Always.
There'll be times I'm like, I don't know that person, but I know her sister, right? You know, like, Wormies does her sister's hair, you know, this, and I do this. Like, everybody is so linked together, and I don't think we realize that as much as we truly are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we all have more in common than we don't. And if the past, God, like 9 years of like the politics of like anger and hatred and division that Donald Trump and all those MAGA folks have been spewing, if that's taught us anything, it's that we have to understand each other at a human level, and that we have to cherish these communities that we live in, and not get caught up in this team sports, red versus blue,
us against you or whatever.
Right, it should be all of us against the problem.
Right.
You know, and if the problem is, you know, income inequality, if the problem is housing affordability, if, you know, everybody, regardless of, you know, race, gender, creed, whether they're immigrant or not, whether, you know, what their salary is, socioeconomic status, everybody wants the same things, right? We all want to be safe.
Yep.
We all want to be able to have access to housing and to food, to basic resources.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're building a brighter future for those that are going to come after us, whether we choose to have kids or not.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple when you actually zoom
Break
out
it down.
a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we can do that. It doesn't have to be this miserable.
We love to complicate things as humans.
Absolutely.
And when there are people in positions of power that say things or hate and fear and all of that, it allows other people to kind of come out and say that. And that's the beauty of having a community as well. Like, I think a lot of us in Lexington, you're from here, but I think most of us that I hear day in and day out, like, we're from these little small towns.
People choose to come here.
And we chose to have a bigger community that is a little bit more of, like, a perspective and, you know, of it not just being one or the other. Like,
again, it's our diversity is our strength. And 100. I'm so grateful for the number of different people with different experiences than I have that live in my district that I've gotten to speak with, and I've gotten to understand and grow as a person because of that.
Same,
like, regardless of the outcome of this election, I'm a better person for having met those folks
and hear their stories.
The experience is everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, how can you do that and not grow as a person? But, you know, when we talk about this, like, national division and this, like, politics of bigotry and anger, you know, I also want to point out that, like, in those moments, we have seen, like, incredible things happen in response to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, for me, what I always think about is that I knew I was trans in 2016. I was scared to death. Like, I could not do it.
Yeah.
I was scared shitless to actually come out and transition.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is Trump's America. There's no future for me. And I remember the exact day that I realized, okay, I got to transition.
Yeah.
And it was November 7th, 2017, in the first round of elections after Trump became president. Danica Rome, who's now a state senator, then won her race for the Virginia House of Delegates, you know, openly trans woman. And, you know, she was like me in a lot of other ways, you know, like, had also played in bands, you know, wasn't shy about being like, this is my home and I'm not going anywhere. And, like, it was sort of a put up or shut up moment for me, where it was like, God, she can do it. What's my, like,
what's my
I can too.
Like, what's my excuse? And so representation matters in that sense.
Absolutely. It really does. Especially like, I didn't grow up with a lot of representation of really anything other than white Christianity. Like,
you and me both.
And so I didn't even realize I was gay until I moved to Lexington, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, that's, I mean, obviously, like, now that I look back, I'm like, she was gay at 12, but
there's moments. 2020.
Exactly. Like, but, you know, you just have to put yourself in other people's shoes and, like, see their experiences in their lives to be able to, like, connect to that. Like, and that's the beauty in being a human. If we all are different and individual, but at the same time, we're all asking for the same thing and the same rights. Like, and it is scary, definitely, in the world that we're here. Like, I know I've been like, is my marriage going to be taken away? Is there, you know, like, is rights and things like that, things that shouldn't even...
Like, you shouldn't even have to think about.
I shouldn't even have to think about, but it just is the world that we live in. And I think as a kid, especially younger, like, if I would have saw just more representation like you and other people that we have out in this world, like, I would have came out earlier or realized more or just been more into certain things and been willing to speak my voice. But it's really scary when you don't see that. And a lot of people want to put all of that hush hush, and if you don't see it, then it's not real. But that's the time we all need to actually, like, come out and speak against it. Like,
exactly. And
that's when someone needs you the most too. You know?
It's you can't be what you can't see.
Right.
And so, you know, in that situation, you know, with my own experience, I didn't think I could have a future in a place like Kentucky because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know, just one state over, I could see it.
Yeah.
And now the like really beautiful thing, and it happened like accidentally, but now I've gotten to meet so many trans kids in Kentucky and queer kids in Kentucky, and they see that they can have a future and that like this place belongs to them too. They don't have to
run away.
You know, right. And it's the idea that you can be trans and be a Kentuckian and have those be equal coexisting parts of your identity, equally infallible and equally important to who you are.
Yeah.
That's not a contradiction. It actually makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that is the beauty of Lexington. Is like that if any place you can be in Kentucky, it is Lexington. You know what I mean? Like obviously we have everywhere in Kentucky there is everyone. But we have such a community, I feel like Lexington does, with just everything that we have and supportive and things like that. And that's what I love about being a part, just even a business owner or people. Most of our, I mean, like primarily our clients are, you know, Lexingtonians.
For sure.
That is the proper term.
Yes. But that's the beauty in Lexington is we have a little bit more of a broader of a view, if you will.
And we have like, I think it's cool that like there are so many people that come to Lexington because they know they will be accepted.
I know for me, that's why I came to Lexington because I was like, I've got to have
this safe space.
Yeah,
I know there's going to be a community for me there.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Because like in a world of, a sea of
red
homophobia, you know, we're like an island.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And obviously we want all of Kentucky to be safe, and you know.
But the fact
you know, you can come here and it be okay.
Right. Like, I wish it were different.
Yeah.
But right now we have an 80-20 Republican supermajority in the state house here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen in the 2025 legislative session, but I do know that Republicans are going to have a supermajority in all likelihood, and they have no reason to work across the aisle.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I want to make sure that we keep Lexington safe. And that's going to take local elected officials who are willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with our legislators and to push back when there is legislative overreach from Frankfurt. You know, there was a bill introduced this past session that would have effectively dismantled our fairness ordinance here in Lexington, which prohibits discrimination based on LGBTQIA identity in housing, education, and public accommodations. Like, these are basic things.
Yeah.
You know, and we saw it happen with source of income discrimination, where Lexington moved to pass that, and Frankfurt decided that all of a sudden home rule and small government doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that should have been a conversation. And, you know, I want to make sure that we have people who are willing to have those conversations, but if Frankfurt comes to bite us, we're not afraid to bite back.
Yeah.
And so that is incredibly important to me, to make sure that when there are kids who are scared like I was, and maybe, you know, they're in Fayette County, or maybe they're out in Pikeville or Paducah or somewhere else in Kentucky, I want them and their families to know that, like, there's a place here for them. They can make a home here, that regardless of what you look like, who you love, what your gender is, how much money you make, whether or how you worship, you are welcome in Lexington. And we can be that hopeful beacon to those folks. And I think that we can. We just have to be a little more bold. We mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
That we haven't asked, and you can go as long or as short with this as you want. But do you have a long-term goal for like politics, like career-wise? Like, do you see yourself doing this like forever?
God, I hope not.
I mean, forever's an intense word, but like, you know.
No, I mean, I think politics are, it shouldn't be a career. I care a hell of a lot less about politics. I care about public service.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I'm not thinking about what I'm going to be doing 10 years from now.
I like that.
I think that
also you kind of know I can plan as much as I want to, but
it's going to do what it
the universe can take me wherever.
Absolutely.
And I have to be just the willing vessel to say, hey, let's fucking go.
I don't have a 10-year plan, so I was, no pressure.
No,
I mean, wondering.
I think a lot of people get into politics and they're like, I'm going to run for this office because it's going to be a stepping stone to the next one, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be the president.
Yeah.
Not so strategic.
No, I watched The Politician on Netflix.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think that's actually everything that's wrong with politics.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And listen, let's be honest here. If I was planning to run for public office, I would not have gotten a sexy ghost tattoo. That was not, this wasn't on the agenda, but I had an opportunity to do some good. And so whatever I end up doing for, I'm 28 and God willing, I'll have, a lot of life left to live ahead of me.
Yeah.
I hope that whatever I'm doing, I am just doing what I can in that moment to help make things a little bit easier for folks in my community and for folks like me.
Yeah.
And so I think that the best way to prepare for any job that you might get in the future is to do the best you possibly can at the one you have right now.
Yeah.
Right now, my job is being a candidate to represent the people of the 4th District on the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Council.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my damnedest at that.
Yeah.
And God willing, come January, I'll be able to do my damnedest as the council member representing the people of the 4th District on the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Council.
I love that.
Same.
You're whole assing it, as
Yes.
Ron Swanson would say.
Yeah, don't half-ass
Don't half-ass two things when you whole ass one
thing.
I live by that quote.
You and me both. Yeah. No, that is a golden nugget of wisdom.
It is.
I love that.
I love Parks and Rec.
I'm in the middle of a rewatch right now.
Oh. Is the hole filled up yet, or no?
Not yet.
Nah, I got you.
No, I just watched the fluoride in the water episode.
Yes.
So good. So good.
My God.
Anything else? Emma, is there anything else you feel?
I mean, listen, if y'all wanted to spend like 3 hours talking about like early 2000s pop punk or like early,
I would.
Do you remember Pop Goes Classic Rock? Or Punk Goes Classic Rock?
Of course I do. No, I mean...
that was so good.
What was the band that covered Don't Fear the Reaper on that?
Oh, I don't know, but it was good.
That was such a good one. And
that was too secular for my home.
I'm not going to lie. I had the Still Fly version on my iPod.
I got you.
I don't know who sang that, but a hardcore version of Still Fly was good.
No, I mean, I'm gathering that again. You grew up in kind of an evangelical environment.
Yep.
So did I.
Yep.
I still remember sneaking American Idiot by Green Day and The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, sneaking those records real carefully because oh my God, that's got the parental advisory sticker.
I would burn CDs and the first two songs and the last two songs were whatever I labeled this CD, and it was like, Jesus worship. And then the rest of it was whatever I wanted to listen to. But I was like, if my mom puts this on, which she could, this is where she'd get me.
That's a pro move.
It is.
I say this, strict parents, the only thing you teach your kid is to how to be sneaky and how to lie real good.
True.
And it just is what it is.
Listen.
And why was I sneaking? Why was that a thing? But it is what it is.
No, honestly, the thing that I miss most about all of this, I really want to go to when we were young in Las Vegas, but I can't because I have to be here canvassing, and it's MCR's doing the Black Parade front to back.
Oh my gosh.
And
that would be so good.
That would be so good.
It would be so good.
Doing her job.
But,
sometimes job comes first.
Never let it be said.
Never let it be said. When we started this podcast, it was like we have no, like people were like, is it about hair? And we're like, no. Like
yes,
it's about
I talk about hair for hours and hours
it's
and
about
hours
just like we have so many like people in our chairs just in so different walks of life, and like it's crazy. Like and so it's like we can use this and kind of just help you all, help us, and it just allows like the community to see everyone. Like
I'm really glad that this isn't a podcast about hair, because y'all would be shaming me right now.
Never.
I've been out canvassing. I had to change my car.
I told Mommy what you text me. She was like, my hair may be a little. I'm like, no, you are fine.
I said, text him and say, I haven't washed my hair since last Tuesday.
Yeah, you fine.
It's fine.
You can get away with it. Like, I don't know. You've got like.
Listen, none of this is real.
Listen, you can get away with anything if you have the confidence.
Absolutely.
You just gotta, exactly.
What's the quote? Yesterday's eyeliner is today's smoky eye.
There you go.
If you believe in yourself.
Yeah, it's all about confidence.
It's all about confidence. How you carry yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and it's, not to get real serious real quick, but like there's a lot of nasty shit out there for especially young queer and trans folks. If I can do anything in relation to them, I want them to know that like they can have their health care targeted, they can have their access to basic civil rights targeted, but what they can never ever lose is their humanity and their dignity. And people are going to try to take that from them, but you can't let them.
No one can take that.
No one can take that from you.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Like, queer and trans Kentuckians have been in Kentucky since there's been a Kentucky for them to be in.
And we will stay and we'll be in it for the rest of the future. It is what it is. Move over, get over it. Like, and I always say, I'm like, I love the little baby gays, and I just want, I just want everybody to like, just like have someone out there representing them that we did not grow up having whatsoever. Like, I think I knew 2 gay people. Like, I never met anyone.
All I had was Hillary.
Yeah, like it was just like seeing that representation in all aspects of life, politics. I mean, anything. Like, obviously, my industry, like, we're rampant, but like, can we have that? Can we have that in other things? Like, and we're showing that. Like, yeah.
And I think about representation in media and like how I grew up. I had no concept of what being trans meant. Like I didn't have the language for that until I was 15 years old. My only concept was like Ace Ventura or Silence of the Lambs, and it's like that's something that will mess a kid up if you're like looking and thinking like this is the closest thing. This isn't what I'm feeling, but this is the closest thing to it. You're constantly being told that you're this awful, abhorrent, evil thing. And seeing now that there are plenty of different options, whether you're looking at, politics, whether you're looking at like TV and movies, whatever field you're in. Like, there are queer and trans people, and like, I hope that the young folks know that we're here to like reach down and like leapfrog them over us. Like, that's the point, is to make it better for them.
Absolutely.
To make it better than we had it.
I've never understood.
The people before us, it's paved the way. Like, they've gave us this, and now we're like, it's just supposed to, every generation, we're wanting to improve it. We're wanting to make it easier on everyone.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Lexington passed its fairness ordinance 25 years ago, this past July. If they had not done that, if the organizers had not worked on that, and they had not marched, and they had not lobbied, there's no way in hell I'd be sitting here as somebody who actually succeeded in a primary election to serve on the council, that same government body that enacted the fairness ordinance to begin with.
Right, yeah.
And so, we do this to make things a little bit better for those who are going to come after us.
Absolutely.
And I know that's what you all are doing with your studio here.
Yeah.
And I think
totally.
that, you know, I think that's an amazing thing. And I'm so glad, you know, that we have folks like you who are investing in our communities and investing in building up communities within communities. And I think that it's really remarkable, and I really appreciate y'all inviting me here.
We appreciate you. We're just glad it could work out, and we're glad, like I said, those connections that we have, and everyone's, like, you're not our client, you're Cantor's, but we love that you...
Shout out to Cantor.
Shout out to Cantor.
What's up, dude?
But we love that, like, we have him, we love that we have, like, just everyone that kind of sits in there, and that connection in there, like...
Well, and I think we break that wall of, like, you don't have to pay your dues. Like, just because, like, you know...
You
like,
don't have to wait your turn.
Yes, like, you can, like you were saying, like, you know, this gave me the opportunity to do this, like, make, like, in kind of like an invisible string theory kind of way, like, where you're like, you know, like, oh, like, you know, this person wasn't thinking of me, but now here I am, and I have this opportunity, where it's like, that's just what we want to, like, we want to do that with, too. So, like, that's so cool that you... like brought that up.
Yeah, and
like we just want everyone to, like, obviously you want people to work hard, but you don't want to be like, oh, I had to do this, so you have to do this to get where I am.
Right. It's you know, if you went through something bad and then say, oh, well, I went through something bad, so you got to do it. That's just part of it.
Right.
I don't think you came out of that okay. I feel like,
no,
you know,
you've not healed from that. You've not dealt with that.
Because you should always want better for the people coming behind you, baby.
And that's healing from
always.
That. Like, I'm like, hey, this is, you know, I'm like my younger stylist, and we have people that come and shadow the salon all the time, or we've taught education and apprentices. Like, I'm like, this is what someone didn't tell me, and I'm going to save you and, like, help you a lot, you know, like, and, like, I didn't get it this way, but I'm hoping you can. Like, and that's how it should be.
And, like, that's just, like, human evolution. That is how we move forward as a society, and, you know.
It's going forward, whereas I feel like we've kind of...
We're not going back.
We're not going back.
We're not going back.
Digging their toes in.
Like, but
you know,
we're going forward.
Listen, going backwards isn't an option.
No.
And standing still's nowhere near enough. So we've got to move forward.
Got to move forward.
But if we're going to move forward, we've got to do it together. And so that takes, you know, extending, you know, the invitation. That takes, you know, inviting people in and creating a space where everybody is welcome as they are. And they can just be. And, you know.
And communicating versus fighting. Like arguing. Like
collaboration, not antagonization.
Yes, and I feel like we've lost that. Like, it's just always one or the other. It's like everybody's made it so black and white.
We
and
can't
I'm like,
converse
it is not
anymore.
Like, no, and listen, I went down to Frankfurt as, you know, wearing my Doc Martens, you know, almost 6 feet tall, blue hair, you know, trans woman, got all these tattoos. And I met with dozens of Republican legislators, most of whom were very upfront about the fact that they had never knowingly had a conversation with a trans person before. Wow. Now, I could go on a whole rant about how, you know, if you're going to make legislation about a group of people, you should probably talk to somebody who belongs to that group at the very least. But the thing that I found was, even though, you know, we ended up with this horrific Frankenstein bill, there are people in the legislature who have advocated for bathroom bans, you know, that, you know, they're women, they're Republicans, and they're like, you know, oh yeah, women's sports, women's bathrooms, but they have shared a bathroom with a trans woman and made jokes while we washed our hands, and it was fine. And like, on an interpersonal level, they can treat you with respect. You have to be willing to have difficult conversations with people that you know you're not going to agree with.
And that's how you break through.
Exactly. But the thing is, if they're meeting you in good faith too, that's how you change hearts and minds.
Absolutely.
And so now, you know, we might not have a pro-LGBTQ majority in the state legislature, but, you know, I was talking about how it's an 80-20 Republican supermajority. It's not 80-20 anti-LGBTQ.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not, some like equation of saying like both of these parties are equally good and or bad.
Yeah.
But we have to acknowledge that those conversations matter, and they change people's hearts and they change people's minds. My mom was a political science major, and she wrote her thesis when she was in college on why it would be important for Ford to pardon Nixon. And now, I'm serious, but like now this past year, she voted proudly for Andy Bashir because she knew that he was going to make life a little bit easier for folks like her daughter.
Yeah.
We didn't get along at first.
Yeah.
And, listen, talking to a potentially hostile elected official is nothing on talking to a potentially hostile family member you've known your entire life.
Amen.
And you're afraid that they might not want you in their life at all anymore.
Yeah.
And they might say some horrendous things like, I guarantee you, and I can promise you this, no legislator, no elected official, nobody in politics has ever said anything nastier to me than my own family.
Hey, man, do that. Yep.
And if we could just bring that attitude of, we are not on the same page right now, but we are going to keep having these conversations until we can find something that we agree on.
Yeah. There can be a common ground.
It might take years, it might take decades. It took years for my mom and I to be on speaking terms.
Yeah.
And now I talk to her every day.
Yeah.
We don't agree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we agree to respect each other.
Yep.
And we agree that, at the end of the day, we are each other's family. I'm an only child.
Yeah.
And, she raised me on her own. So she's got one kid and I got one mom.
Yeah.
And even if we're not on the same page, nothing's worth throwing that away when we have the opportunity to be in each other's lives.
It's just being respectful and
Absolutely.
being willing. You know what I mean? Like
and being vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that if there's anything that I want to see more of in our politics, it's vulnerability.
Yeah, we don't see that a lot.
No.
People are scared, and rightfully so when you have such anger and vitriol, but there's so much strength and vulnerability in sharing your own stories. And I'll give you an example from each party. There is a period of time within a couple of days last year that Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe, who's a Republican, suffered a really bad injury. She got kicked in the head by a family horse. That's not something to joke about.
No.
That's some
Serious.
real shit.
Yeah.
And, thankfully, she survived and she's continued to serve, and she's been so open about her recovery process. And that's going to make it easier for folks who are dealing with head injuries, who are dealing with the, difficulties of undergoing extensive reconstructive surgery, And, right when that happened, we also found out that Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman had undergone a double mastectomy as a preventative measure after they found something that might have been breast cancer. And that ran in her family. And she's been very open about that. And, that as a result is going to make it easier for people to see that, okay, this doesn't have to be the end, and also to understand the importance of, prevention measures that you can take. And so, those are two women that, have very different beliefs, very different policy beliefs, but I admire the hell out of both of them for showing their vulnerabilities in that way. And so whatever side of the aisle you fall on, where it's really not even an aisle, it's a spectrum, It's
black and white.
No, it's you got, it's like a bizarre interdimensional object, But wherever you fall politically, if you meet each other in good faith, you show vulnerability, and you are willing to carefully and genuinely consider another person's perspective. You're going to get somewhere.
That's being a human, is being vulnerable.
Humanity.
And and having that.
And I think showing any sort of vulnerability, especially when you typically look at people in those positions and think, oh, you're maybe I'm taking the humanity out of this. Like it gives everyone just like a little snippet of like, oh, like we can relate. We can.
Politicians are people too.
Exactly.
Like at the other end of every single thing, there is another human being.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks so much for being here, Emma. We appreciate you so much. Where can the people find you?
So you can find me on all the social medias at Emma Curtis Lex, Lex. You can go to my campaign website, which is emmaforlex.com. You can do the number 4 or FOR. They will both take you to the same place.
Amazing.
And you can find me out knocking doors in the 4th District for the next month or so. Yeah. And also, while we're at it, if y'all haven't done it already, go to govote.ky.gov and make sure you know where your polling place is and make a plan to vote this November up and down the ballot on everything from the president to we've got ballot amendments in Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. Well, you guys can find this podcast on YouTube, or you can find anything we're doing for the podcast on TikTok or our Instagram. And
like we always say,
call us if you need us.